Okay, I'm going to turn to my monitor here because I've got my monitor instead of my phone. Nice big monitor to read off, which is nice. So the first one is, given the current shortage of materials, is there any cause for concern that GPUs released during said shortage would be using subpar parts? Is a situation similar to the bait and switch with SSD components something to look out for? So we're going to see some graphics cards with, I don't know, what would they downgrade? The power stages maybe? Not that they advertise power stages. I guess that's where it differs a bit from SSDs. With SSDs, you get certain, DRAM and certain NAND flash and controls and all that sort of stuff. And generally that stuff is advertised, at least some of the components, so you expect to get that. And the specifications are subject to change, is a bit dicey. But generally with GPUs, you get the GPU you pay for, you get the memory that runs at the memory spec. We've seen situations where there might be Micron or Samsung memory, and that's not really advertised. I think that was with was it the 5700 XT? I can't remember now. But we've seen that before. So, yeah, they might use subpar components, but I think generally it's usually fixed. Well, I suppose it's not. It depends on what power stages are available. Like if Alpha and Omega are running short and then, OnSemi or someone else can offer them, they might use those. And that's not necessarily to say they're substandard. They might even be better. So anything to add to that, Tim?
I think with GPUs as opposed more to storage, NVIDIA and AMD have pretty strict requirements for the GPUs themselves. So, they might say, we're going to certify this specific type of GDDR memory to work with our GPUs. Now, you can choose Micron or Samsung, but only from, let's say, a certain sub-series of that memory. And if there were alternate, manufacturing options, they might not actually work at all. At least they wouldn't be certified, in which case the board partners, I think, would be pretty unlikely to use non-certified components. I think it's similar with some of the power stages and stuff. Obviously, they're going to need to meet a minimum requirement for the power delivery system into the GPU, or it's not going to work. And yeah, maybe they could choose significantly over the minimum spec or closer to the minimum spec. But at the end of the day, the GPU is still going to work because it's a range of different components going into it. With something like an SSD, usually it's the company themselves choosing to put together the whole product. So they're not basing it around a certain product. They're saying, oh, okay, we want to build this specific SSD to these specs, and we're going to contract out our memory to Micron for that, and then we're going to purchase the DDR cache from some other brand and put them all together, and then they can do those sorts of bait and switches. But for the GPUs being sort of that partnership between AMD, NVIDIA, and the AIBs, I think it's much harder for them to do something like that. So I wouldn't be super concerned with this even in this current GPU shortage.
Yeah, that's an excellent point to bring up. And that was a point that came up a lot when we did the whole DDR4 version of the GT 1030, and we really directly attacked NVIDIA over that.
Yep.
Thought that was anti-consumer and all that sort of stuff. And we had a lot of people push back and say, why are you having a go at NVIDIA? Really, this is on the AIB that is making the DDR4 version. It's like, well, that's not really how it works.
Yep.
So the AIBs can't just say, oh, we're going to pick a certain GPU and we're going to use really cheap memory that we have in abundance, and that'll help us sort of piggyback on the reputation of that part. NVIDIA certainly will not allow that to happen. So yeah, as Tim said, there is a specification that they have to adhere to, and there might be multiple specifications, but they can't go with something even worse than that. And they probably can't even go in between. It's one or the other.
Yep.